Can America and India get their relationship back on track? More importantly, can U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's India tour or visit make it happen? Marco Rubio is in India on what many are calling a crucial diplomatic reset mission, as tensions over tariffs, global conflicts, and Washington's outreach to Pakistan and China test one of the world's most important strategic partnerships. A warm handshake, but behind the smiles are some serious diplomatic repair work. U.S. Secretary of State arrived in India for his first official visit at a time when India-U.S. relations are facing fresh strain after years of rapid growth. Just a year ago, ties between Washington and New Delhi appeared stronger than ever. However, Rubio mentioned India as central to America's Indo-Pacific strategy while announcing a new America First visa schedule aimed at prioritizing business professionals. But steep U.S. tariffs on Indian goods, uncertainty around the trade talks, and America's renewed engagement with Pakistan and China have complicated the relationship. Rubio began his high-stakes visit in Kolkata, where he visited the headquarters of the Missionaries of Charity founded by the late Mother Teresa, before traveling to New Delhi for high-level meetings. The top U.S. diplomat later met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi, where both sides reviewed cooperation in defense, trade, strategic technologies, energy, education, and connectivity. Rubio also shared Washington's perspective on global hotspots, including the ongoing crisis in West Asia. Prime Minister Modi reiterated India's support for resolving conflicts through dialogue and diplomacy.
This relationship between our two countries is at the cornerstone of our approach to the Indo-Pacific. It's the relationship between the President and the Prime Minister. It's a personal relationship that dates back to the first administration when the President had a chance to visit here, and it is carried over into this second administration. And you can just see the connection between them, and I think that's incredibly important. It is.
The visit is also being closely watched because of growing concerns in New Delhi over America's shifting geopolitical priorities. President Trump has recently intensified outreach to both Pakistan and China, moves that have raised eyebrows in India. Trade tensions have added to their knees. Although some tariffs were rolled back under an interim arrangement, the two sides are still struggling to finalize a broader trade agreement. After meeting Prime Minister Modi, Rubio also inaugurated a new U.S. Embassy Support Annex building in Delhi, calling it a symbol of long-term partnership between the two countries.
But I think, as Ambassador Gore outlined a moment ago, the building stands as more than just brick and mortar. It's more than just the structure. It is, I hope, a sign of our commitment to this important relationship between the United States and India. This relationship between our two countries is at the cornerstone of our approach to the Indo-Pacific.
Rubio's trip comes ahead of the upcoming Quad Foreign Ministers meeting in New Delhi, where leaders from India, the US, Japan, and Australia are expected to discuss Indo-Pacific security and regional cooperation. For Washington, India remains a key strategic partner in balancing China's growing influence in the region, but Rubio's visit will ultimately be judged on one key question: can the US and India restore the momentum that once defined their partnership? Richard Rosso is a senior advisor and chair in U.S.-India Policy Studies, CSIS, and a managing director at Maklati Associates. Is now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Mr. Rosso, it's good to see you, and thank you very much for your time. Let me begin by asking you about the relationship between India and the United States. Do you actually think that the visit by Marco Rubio will reinvigorate the relationship between India and the United States?
It can have a modest positive impact. I think a lot of the big decisions that were taken over the last year that have worsened the relationship are probably beyond the Secretary of State's hands. So unless he's carrying messages specific from the president, he may not be able to resolve some of the issues on visa and immigration limitations and fees, getting the trade agreement across the finish line. So that may be a bit beyond the Secretary's grasp. But if you talk about the Quad starting to get some momentum, building cooperation, friendshoring, offering, I think, counsel that we're not all in on China, that there still is scope to try to expand technology partnerships with India. There are a number of things I think the Secretary can do, but also reaching out to people. The fact is not just a quick trip to Delhi, meeting, going to a lot of other cities, important as well, because people-to-people ties have really been foundational for the relationship across the long term.
Mr. Rosso, let's talk about the Quad relationship and the Quad grouping, because many analysts and many critics say it's been a dull grouping, so to speak, over the years. How can the group revive itself?
Yeah, I think, we're all looking for quantifiable outcomes from Quad. You've seen successive presidents, including President Trump, elevate the Quad from kind of a mid-level diplomatic meeting to a Secretary of State minister meeting to a head of state meeting during the Biden administration. Now it looks like it's been downgraded back to minister level meetings. So we do hope that you do have a leader summit at some point this year, but that keeps getting delayed. The agenda has been skinny down quite a bit. During the Biden administration, it really began to kind of spread out. You had not just technology cooperation, healthcare and relief cooperation, and even some small steps moving into military cooperation. Now they're really focused on 4 work streams: maritime security, economic prosperity, digital tech, and humanitarian assistance. So to your point, I think, getting tangible outcomes. A lot of times, the best things that we can do together are during a crisis when we can rally up, whether it's funding India to oversupply COVID vaccines throughout the region. If there's another tsunami or natural disaster, our navies are able to work together. So I think, to some extent, the Quad, the most meaningful outcomes are going to be when there's a crisis and the 4 countries are able to work together. But yeah, definitely all eyes to see on what kind of agenda they can pull together, since they're not meeting at the leader level anymore.
Mr. Rosso, now that you've mentioned crises, let's talk about what is happening in the world right now, the geopolitics, the conflicts that are happening around the world, or in essence of the United States. What can the Quad do to mitigate this crisis from even getting bigger? Can it do anything?
I think Middle East crisis is a bit beyond the Quad's grasp. The United States, India will probably engage what's happening in the Middle East, based on our own agendas with limited overlap. And Australia and Japan, the 2 other members of the Quad, have less day-to-day engagement and less ability to move the needle among the major players in the region. Of course, the United States, along with Israel, which is actually at war with Iran, really is kind of the deciding factor. When do we decide enough is enough? How far are we going to push? Are we going to go deeper? So probably just one single country among the Quad. So it's good that we'll share, because the impacts are felt by the other Quad members. High energy prices, difficulty in getting minerals that have to pass through the Hormuz Strait. So everybody kind of feels the pinch. But this is, again, one of those issues that really lies with the president, not with the Secretary of State. And the United States, will have the major statement in that. The one security area the Quad can play in, is trying to make sure that we don't have an escalation of tensions revolving around China. It's push out on islands in the South China Sea, threats against Taiwan. These are some of the areas that the Quad was really kind of purpose-built for. So in as much as we see threats today, threats tomorrow, that's probably the one area that the 4 countries get together and have really robust talks focused on.
Live from Washington, D.C., Mr. Richard Rosso, thank you very much for your time and for talking to us today.
Thank you.